All right, so you're thinking of moving to Phoenix, Arizona, and you've kind of putting together your wish list. Maybe you've done some preliminary research. You kind of have an idea about the valley, where you might want to live, the type of home you want to live in, you know, what your budget is. And maybe you've already talked to a lender or you need to talk to a lender, you know, and you just kind of put together your little checklist. But did you think about an HOA? Is that something that's on that list? That always seems to be a topic of conversation. You know, do you prefer to live in a community that has an HOA, or do you prefer to stay away from it? So stick around, because in this video, I'm gonna try and unpack some thoughts and ideas that I have. I grew up in the building business here in town, and we dealt with this all the time. So I'll just try and share a few of the things that I found to be important over the years, that might be important to you as well. And so with that being said, kick back and relax, and we're gonna get after it right now. Hey, if this is your first time in the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about Phoenix or any of the amazing suburbs here in the Metro Phoenix area, then be sure and subscribe below. And don't forget to tap that bell for notification. That way you'll be the first to learn about our current market here in Phoenix. Hey, my name is Rick, and the team and I, we get calls and emails every single day from people just like you looking to move to Phoenix or the surrounding area. And we absolutely love it. So whether you're looking to move next week, next month, or even a year from now, go ahead, reach out to us. You can give us a call. You can shoot us a text, you can send us an email, and we'd be more than happy to help you make a smooth move to Phoenix. All right, I'm going to go ahead and shift gears and talk about something a little different in this video than what you've seen in the past on the videos that I've done. And I know it's a topic of conversation that I've been thinking about here recently. I dealt with this a lot in the home building business. There's a lot of pros and cons to this particular topic, and that's the topic of HOAs. You know, a number of people like them, some don't like them. They don't like all the governing aspects that come with it. So what I thought I'd do is just share a few of my thoughts about dealing with the HOAs, and that way you can kind of decide what might be best for you and your family, and maybe you've already made that decision. But if you haven't really thought about it, I thought maybe I'd kind of walk through a few of these items for you. And I'm not going to list them in any particular order, so it's not like the top one versus all the way down at the bottom. I'm just going to try and share a few things for you to be aware of if you want to live in an HOA. And then some of the things, if you don't want to live in an HOA, what you want to be careful for on that end of it as well. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, the first thing that kind of comes to mind that I'm thinking of is like an amenities package. You know, most of these HOAs, they have access to some form of maybe a community pool, a spa, they might have a workout facility. You know, and what's nice about that is that, for example, if you live in a master plan community, you've thought about maybe putting in your own pool, but you've decided maybe you don't want to. If you've got a community pool that you can take advantage of, you can go down and swim and have fun and don't have to worry about paying for it every month, because most people that have pools around here, they end up hiring a service to come take care of it anyway. So this way it's included in your HOA. You can go enjoy it and then go home and not have to deal with it. So that could be a real plus, would be the amenities that come with the communities. All right, another one could be property maintenance. You know, most HOAs take care of the property in and around your home. In other words, they'll take care of the sidewalks. A number of communities, just depending on where you're living, might take care of the front yard maintenance, which is nice. You don't have to worry about that. They take it from, like, you know, back a curb all the way to the front of the house, which is nice. Sometimes they might maintain the streets. Oftentimes, if you're in a gated community, behind the gate, that'll be the responsibility of the HOA through maybe an assessment of some sort. Generally, the cities will take care of it if it's a non-gated area. But if you've got playgrounds, if you've got community grass areas, for example, any tree-lined streets that might be, you know, along the roadways or what have you, are going to be maintained. And that's just a real benefit, because what that does, it just helps insulate your values and protects your property value, because you want it to always look nice, and you've got peace of mind knowing that somebody else is taking care of it for you. You know, another nice thing that an HOA offers is oftentimes what we might call community involvement. A number of communities, and it really depends on the size of the development. They might have a monthly magazine that goes out, and they really want to try and foster the relationships with the residents to create a social interaction, try and get them involved in different events that they have throughout the year and throughout the months. And usually it comes out on a monthly basis, and it'll tell you what's coming up for that month, whether it might be a farmer's market or come meet your neighbor, or maybe they might have a wine tasting and cheese party or a movie night. Just a number of different things that they have throughout the year. And it just gives you an opportunity to think about, hey, let's just go out, let's go out and meet some of our neighbors and see what's going on in the community. And so that's kind of a nice perk too that a lot of the HOAs will offer, especially in the larger master plan communities. You know, and another nice benefit to an HOA, and this is what a lot of people really like about them, is what they have CC&Rs. They're called covenants, conditions, and restrictions. And it's basically the do's and don'ts within the development. So they do have some restrictions on what you can or can't do. I mean, they might not allow you to park overnight on the street. You got to park in the driveway. You know, they'll monitor how your home looks. If your home needs to be repainted at some point in time, you might get a letter in the mail. You know, a number of developments will have 24-hour roving patrol, which is kind of a nice benefit. I know in the community that we lived in for years, it had that, and you know, throughout the day you see the patrols kind of going through, and it kind of gives you peace of mind that they're, you know, that they're overseeing the development and making sure that everything is safe and looks good and there aren't any issues. But so there's a lot of just things that they do, but the whole purpose behind that is to enhance the look of the community, protect the property values for everyone, and just make sure everybody's following the same rules and regulations. So that's something that's a big item for those that want an HOA versus having a non-HOA. All right, so to kind of continue on with the last topic I just talked about regarding the CC&Rs, or kind of the do's and don'ts in the development, what they allow or don't allow, and that's all going to be set up by the HOA. But if a dispute does arise, they do have a resolution for that the HOA will intervene and step in and hopefully minimize whatever issues that arose and try and, you know, just see if they can't come to some kind of resolution with it. The last thing you want to do is have a dispute with your neighbor and have an ongoing feud with them. So if you can kind of come to a meeting of the minds between the two of you, that's the best solution out there, and that's where the HOA can kind of come in and be a mediator between the two parties and see if they can't get it resolved and you know, bring happiness to both sides. All right, and another thing to take into consideration for HOAs, especially if you're looking to get a loan, is mortgage companies are going to want to know, are you going to be living in an HOA and what the monthly due is, because they're going to factor that into your monthly payment. So just know that when you're budgeting, if you are looking to finance the property that you're going to be living in, just know that they're going to factor that monthly number in for qualifying purposes. So, you know, find out, you want to know what that is, and just so you can kind of factor that into your monthly payment, because they're going to ask for it, and we just want to make sure that we've got that covered for you. Okay, and something else to consider if you want to live in an HOA community is know what your monthly fee is going to be. Now, most of the associations are starting to be collected over a quarterly basis, but in the listing information that you get when you go looking at homes, they're going to give you a monthly equivalent. And one of the things about here in the Valley is we have some large master plan communities, so there might be a master association fee separate from like a sub fee or an individual neighborhood fee. And there again, you know, is it gated, man-gated, or is it non-gated? Those are all going to impact what the monthly fee is going to be. So just make sure as you're out looking at homes, what these fees are going to entail and how much it's going to be each month, because like I said earlier, if you are looking to finance the property, the mortgage company's going to want to know what that monthly number is, because they're going to factor that into those numbers when it comes to qualifying for your home. So just make sure you have an understanding of what the fees are. All right, I think I'll go ahead and wrap it up with this one here. You know, the one thing about an HOA, homeowners association, is they're a powerful group. And what I mean by that is, you know, we all adhere to the same rules and regulations and the same standards of how we're going to live in that community and what we have to follow. And especially when it comes to payment. Now, most of the payments are collected on a quarterly basis. Some might be a little different. They might be semi-annual. It just kind of really depends. But, you know, if you get behind in your fees over time, you know, they can make it rather difficult for you. I mean, they can lien your property. And they can create a real issue for you if you don't pay your dues. Now, obviously, if you pay your dues, you don't have to worry about it. But there again, that's for the protection and the benefit of those that live in the neighborhood and the community, because we all have the same standards and rules and regulations that we have to adhere to. So they do want to maintain these properties. They do want the properties to look nice. They want the common areas to all look nice. And so, you know, best thing to do, just make sure you make your payments. But if you do get behind over time, it can be a challenging situation for you. All right, so you just heard some of the advantages of living in a community that has an HOA, and some of you are sitting there going, that's exactly why I don't want to live in an HOA. I don't like all the restrictions and everything that comes with them. So let's go ahead and talk about, okay, if you don't live in an HOA, then what do you have? What's the option on the other end? So we'll go ahead and talk about that now. You know, it always seems to be with non-HOA communities is the lack and pride of ownership. You know, unfortunately, you'll drive through these neighborhoods and, you know, majority of the homes look nice, they're well maintained, the maintenance on the home looks nice, but there always seems to be maybe one or two homes on the block, for whatever reason, have fallen apart. Either they're not taking care of their landscaping and the weeds are grown and the grass is overgrown, the exterior maintenance on their home isn't taken care of. They just let it get away. You know, sadly, I've seen homes where their front yard kind of becomes valet parking, and there's no special events going on that would adhere to that, or they use it as kind of it's kind of their place to do auto mechanics. You know, they just feel that, hey, I'm not in a governing situation. I can use my home however I want, and they can. Now, what you can do as a neighbor is you can reach out to the city, you can file a complaint, the city will come out, hopefully the city will do something. But at least if you're in an HOA situation, chances are before it gets to that point, they're already going to be on top of it. Either they've sent out letters, or they're going to maybe start levying some fines, and they're going to stay on top of it, and they're going to get in the middle of a mediation or some kind of resolve to get it rectified. But you know, when you live in a non-HOA situation, you're at the mercy of that neighbor. And you know, the biggest challenge we all have is when we move into a community, regardless of where it is, we don't know the people that live around us. Now, we can drive through the neighborhood before we make that decision and kind of get a feel for how people live, but we don't know who's living next door to us. And so we're kind of at that mercy. So when you live in a development that does not have an HOA, you're just at the mercy of your neighbor. And, you know, and hopefully, and like I said, a majority of people really take care of their homes and their property, but there are a handful of those that typically do not in different communities. So you just have to know that going in. You just have to hope it wouldn't occur to you if you want to live in that type of development. And that's really just about it. Just hopefully everybody will take care of their property. You know, and another thing to kind of expand on what I just talked about regarding the lack of maintenance in their homes or on their property. Another pet peeve that I have that for some reason just really drives me nuts is the exterior colors that people will paint their homes. I mean, I realize that everybody has their own style, their own color schemes and all of that, but I think I've seen every color of the rainbow. I mean, I've seen bright yellow, I've seen purples, I've seen reds, I've seen blues, I've seen greens, and all different shades of those colors on the exteriors of homes in these non-HOA communities. And it can really, you know, it's one thing when you see them on the inside of the home, and we all use maybe accent colors to paint certain rooms or what have you. That I can understand. But when you bring those accent colors on the inside and put them on the outside, then it becomes, oh my gosh, you know, what are you going to do? Because now everybody sees it, and it can be a major impact to the community. And so for people driving through, you might be, you know, maybe you've got a home that you're trying to sell, or you're thinking about buying a home, and you come up to this home that's for sale and you love the home, and you look to your right or you look to your left or you look across the street and you're going, oh no, I got to live next door to that. You know, and sadly that impacts the people that are trying to sell their home. And so there again, you know, if you've got a governing HOA, First of all, they're not going to let you just paint colors, whatever color scheme you want to. I mean, they're going to have approved color palettes that you have to adhere to, and they'll have to approve it before you repaint your home. So you know you have peace of mind in that regard. But without it, you know, you really are at the mercy of how those people are going to live, and it's totally up to them. And then maybe you can get something resolved through the city. All right, so another nice thing about it is you don't have to pay an HOA fee. So there again, you don't have to incur that monthly expense, especially if you had like 2 fees if you lived in a big association, or for example, if you lived in a condo, which not only covers, you know, the pool, the spa, and typically a workout facility, but also the maintenance on the building, roofing, painting, maybe, you know, blanket insurance. It might cover, you know, water and sewer and trash, that kind of thing. It's all kind of lumped into one fee. So that's something to take into consideration. You know, if you can find a nice development that's not governed by the restrictions and the rules and regulations of an HOA, then that could work out fine for you. You don't have to pay the fees. Well, and then of course, if you don't have an HOA fee, you don't have to worry about that when it comes to qualifying for a loan. So, like I mentioned, if you're financing the property, you're just going to have, you know, your principal, interest, your taxes, and your insurance, what we call PITI. And then you wouldn't have that HOA fee on top of it. So, you know, if you need that extra room for qualifying, maybe things are a little tight for you, and you don't have to pay it, that could definitely be a perk and save you some money, and then, you know, you don't have to worry about it. Obviously, a big advantage to a non-HOA community would be the strict enforcement policies that they have with the rules and regulations. You know, a lot of people say, you know what, I want more flexibility to do what I want to do. They don't want the restrictions. It's too confining. They stay on top of it too much, and you feel like you're being smothered because you can't do some of the things that you'd like to do. And so with that, you know, it has an impact on the enforcement side of it as well. Because oftentimes, you know, if you live in that kind of an HOA development, it is too restrictive. Now you've got the enforcement side of it. But without an HOA development, you don't have to deal with the enforcement side of it. And you know, they won't be too restrictive on fines and what have you. So it definitely gives you a little bit more freedom to live how you might want to live. But there again, it all comes down to you're at the mercy of your neighbors. And let's face it, most communities we move into, we don't know who we're living next to. And until we move in and kind of get to know the people around us. But you know, you just hope that people want to take care of their properties, maintain it well. Obviously driving through the neighborhood beforehand kind of gives you an idea on how it looks. And just hopefully it'll stay that way. And one other thing to take into consideration in a non-HOA community would be the amenities that come with most of the HOA developments, like a community pool, spa, workout facility, something like that. But the great news is, I mean, you know, so many of these communities around the valley, first of all, if you want a pool, the majority of houses already have pools in them. So you don't even have to worry about it, you just have to maintain it. And you might be able to find land that has, you know, larger properties and things like that. Maybe you want to park some RVs and what have you on your property that would be more restrictive in an HOA environment that you wouldn't have in a non-HOA. So these are various things to take into consideration that you don't have to worry about if you don't want to live in an HOA. Otherwise, that's something that you would have to adhere to in an HOA community. And I would just say that, you know, kind of the final thing here, it would be the lack of a social calendar, if that's important to you. For some, that's like, hey, it's not that big a deal to me. Where you wouldn't have maybe the community involvement that you would have with a lot of the HOA facilities around town. So other than that, that's really about it. All right, so let me just kind of summarize. I just wanted to lay out a few bullet points of an HOA versus not living in an HOA. I mean, I'm sure there's several more that I could address and talk for quite an extended period of time, but I was trying to keep this fairly short. I don't know how short this video is going to be, but I just kind of wanted to give you some advantages, maybe some disadvantages. Overall, I personally think an HOA is a good thing. I mean, I like the peace of mind knowing that if I'm going to live in a development, that I have a peace of mind knowing that the rest of the community is going to be taken care of, or it's going to be addressed if it gets out of hand, because at the end of the day, it insulates my property value and I feel protected with that. So, I mean, that does give you comfort. It gives me comfort and my family comfort knowing that. But otherwise, you know, there's really some great opportunities in non-HOA communities. Like I said, you just have to be aware of of how your neighbor lives and if that might be a concern. But other than that, that's really about it. Just to kind of give you some highlights of HOA versus a non-HOA. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of wrap this up. I'd love it if you found this helpful. Go ahead and like this video. It helps grow our channel. We're trying to expand with our subscribers. We've got videos coming out every week. So if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. We talk everything real estate here in the Metro Phoenix area and would love to share those videos with you. And be sure and tap that bell for notification. That way you can stay current on our latest real estate market. So, hey, with that being said, thanks so much for watching, and we hope to show you around town one day. Bye now.